You have 60 seconds to prove you belong here. Officer Ryan Mercer said it loudly enough for every recruit in the Franklin Police Academy training hall to hear. The room went still for half a second, then laughter rolled across the rubber floor. Simone Carter stood near the edge of the marked practice zone in a dark coat and low black shoes, looking nothing like the tactical instructors surrounding her. Ryan was 35, broad-shouldered, confident, and accustomed to being the strongest voice in the room. Behind him, Officer Luke Bennett folded his arms and smiled as though the outcome had already been decided. Officer Cody Walsh stood several feet away, quieter than the others, but he did not step back when Ryan pointed toward the training mat. None of them knew that the identification card inside Simone's coat named her the Academy's new Director of Tactical Ethics and De-Escalation. None of them knew she had spent nearly 2 decades teaching federal teams how to make sound decisions under pressure. And Simone was not ready to tell them. If this story of courage and justice speaks to you, subscribe and stay with us, because what happened during the next 60 seconds changed the Academy long after the clock stopped. I asked whether this hallway needed to remain clear, Simone said. Her voice was calm, almost quiet beneath the hum of the ventilation system. Ryan stepped closer. You walked into an active tactical class and started giving instructions. I asked for a safe path to the exit. Luke laughed again. She wants to teach us safety. Several recruits smiled because he did. Others looked down, uncertain whether silence would make them seem weak. Simone noticed who laughed first, who laughed late, and who did not laugh at all. The smell of rubber mats and disinfectant hung in the cold fluorescent light. A digital timer glowed above the far wall. Captain Daniel Reeves had asked her to enter the academy in civilian clothing and observe for 1 hour before her formal introduction. For 6 months, the city had received complaints that women and black recruits were judged more harshly in subjective drills, pushed into unnecessary demonstrations, and mocked when they questioned instructors. Reeves wanted Simone to see the culture before the culture knew it was being watched. Ryan gestured toward the practice zone. 3 instructors. 1 minute. Stay inside the marked square and keep your position. If you can do that, maybe we will believe you understand the word safety. Luke looked at the recruits. We can make it easy for her. More laughter followed. Cody did not join in this time. Simone looked at the blue boundary lines, the observation area, and the ceiling cameras. Then she studied the 3 men. Ryan leaned too far forward when challenged. Luke kept glancing toward the audience because attention mattered more to him than balance. Cody watched the nearest recruits, aware that they stood too close to the edge of the mat. Are the training cameras recording? Simone asked. Ryan smiled. Already looking for an excuse? I am asking whether the record will be complete. Instructor Elena Brooks stood near the control station. She knew exactly who Simone was, but her expression revealed nothing. All cameras are active, Elena said. Simone removed her coat and placed it on a chair. She wore a muted gold blouse and dark slacks, not athletic gear, yet her posture remained relaxed. No dangerous techniques, she said. No unnecessary contact. A participant loses by stepping outside the marked area, losing controlled posture, or creating a risk to an observer. Ryan shook his head. You do not set the rules here. Elena looked at him. Those are Academy safety rules. The laughter disappeared. Simone stepped onto the mat. Ryan entered first, followed by Luke and Cody. The 3 men spread around her, confident that numbers had already decided the result. Simone looked up at the timer, then back at Ryan. You think this test is about strength, she said. Ryan lowered his stance. What else would it be about? Simone opened her hands and settled her weight evenly between both feet. Judgment. Elena placed 1 finger above the control button. A sharp electronic tone filled the room. The timer began counting down from 60, and Ryan moved before either of his partners was ready. Ryan crossed the first blue line before Luke and Cody had fully settled into position. Simone moved 1 step to her left, not quickly, but early enough to force him to adjust. His forward momentum carried him too close to Luke, who had begun circling from the opposite side. Their shoulders nearly met, and both men lost the spacing they had assumed would trap her. The timer showed 54 seconds. Control your distance, Simone said. Ryan ignored her. He turned sharply and tried to close the angle again, but Simone shifted toward the open side of the square, keeping both men in front of her. Cody remained near the rear boundary, watching the recruits gathered only a few feet beyond the line. He saw what Ryan did not: if all three instructors rushed at once, someone could be forced into the observation area. "Move in," Ryan ordered. Luke smiled toward the class before stepping forward. That glance cost him. Simone changed direction while his attention was divided, and Luke planted one foot outside the marked zone. Elena's voice cut through the room. "Officer Bennett is out." The recruit stopped breathing for a moment. Luke stared down at his shoe as though the blue line had betrayed him. "That does not count," he said. "It is the rule you accepted," Elena replied. 41 seconds remained. Ryan's expression hardened. What had begun as entertainment was becoming personal. Simone could see it in his shoulders and hear it in the force of his breathing. He no longer watched the entire space. He watched only her. "You are chasing a person instead of controlling the scene," she said. "Stop coaching me. I am identifying the mistake." Ryan advanced again. Simone stepped diagonally, using the smallest possible movement to place Cody between them. Cody hesitated, and Ryan had to stop to avoid colliding with his own partner. The recruits nearest the mat leaned back. "Watch the bystander zone," Simone said. Cody looked over his shoulder and saw a young black female recruit standing close to the boundary. She had been one of the few who had not laughed. Cody raised his hand. "We need more space around the mat." Ryan did not look at him. "Stay focused." "I am focused." "They are too close." Elena immediately directed the recruits to move back. Simone noticed the frustration on Ryan's face. He believed every interruption weakened his authority, even when the interruption protected someone. 30 seconds remained. Luke stood outside the square with his arms folded, no longer smiling. "Finish it," he called. Ryan signaled Cody to move right while he approached from the left. This time the two men coordinated better, but Simone had already read the pattern. She held her ground until Ryan committed to the angle, then stepped toward the center, leaving him with less room than he expected. He corrected too late and placed one heel beyond the line. Elena pressed the control button. "Officer Mercer is out." The timer showed 18 seconds. Ryan looked at the boundary, then at Simone. The room had become so quiet that the ventilation system sounded loud. Cody remained inside the square, his hands open, his posture careful. He did not look eager to defeat her. He looked as though he finally understood that winning was not the real assignment. Simone faced him. "What is the safest decision?" Cody glanced at the recruits, then at Ryan and Luke. "Maintain control and avoid creating unnecessary risk. Then make that decision." Cody slowly stepped backward and stopped near the center instead of forcing the exchange. Simone did not pursue him. The timer dropped through 10 seconds. Ryan spoke from outside the boundary. "Do something." Cody kept his eyes on Simone. "She is not the threat." 5 seconds remained. Simone shifted toward the side, testing whether he would follow blindly. Cody stayed balanced and protected the open path to the exit. Elena watched the timer reach 0 and sounded the end signal. No one moved. Ryan and Luke had both eliminated themselves by abandoning judgment. Cody had remained because he finally chose safety over pride. Simone stood inside the square with her breathing steady. "That," she said, "is what the exercise was supposed to teach." For several seconds, the only sound in the training hall came from the ventilation system and the faint electronic hum of the timer. Ryan stood outside the blue boundary with one heel still touching the line, staring at Simone as though the result had violated something larger than the rules. Luke unfolded his arms and looked toward the recruits, searching for the laughter that had supported him before. None came. Cody remained inside the square, breathing evenly, but his attention had shifted from Simone to the observation area behind her. "You did not defeat him," Ryan said, pointing toward Cody. Simone looked at the timer, then at Cody. He stopped treating safety like weakness. That was the final objective. The challenge was 3 against 1. "No," Simone replied. The challenge was whether 3 instructors could maintain judgment under pressure. Ryan stepped closer to the boundary. You changed the exercise after it started. Elena left the control station and walked toward the mat. She followed the written academy standards from the beginning. Luke gave a short, humorless laugh. Written by whom? Elena looked directly at him. By the department, after 2 recruits were nearly injured during poorly controlled demonstrations last year. The room tightened again. Several recruits exchanged uneasy glances. Simone stepped off the mat and reached for her coat, but she did not put it on. Who approved today's challenge? She asked. Ryan crossed his arms. I did. Was it part of the lesson plan? It became useful. Useful to whom? He did not answer. Simone walked toward the digital screen where the recording controls were displayed. The replay showed Ryan entering before Luke and Cody were ready, Luke looking toward the audience instead of monitoring distance, and Cody repeatedly checking the bystander zone. Simone paused the footage at the moment Luke stepped outside the boundary. What were you watching? She asked him. Luke looked at the screen. The participant. Your eyes were on the class. I was keeping them engaged. You were looking for approval. His face hardened. You are reading a lot into one glance. Simone moved the video forward. Ryan appeared next, advancing while the observation area remained crowded. And this? She asked. Ryan answered immediately. I was closing distance. Without confirming your partner's position. I knew where he was. Then why did you almost force him into the observers? Cody lowered his eyes. Ryan did not. Nothing happened. Simone turned from the screen. That sentence has excused more preventable failures than almost any other. The young black female recruit near the front shifted her weight. Simone noticed a red mark on the floor where the recruit had stepped back quickly during the drill. What is your name? Simone asked. Recruit Maya Thompson, ma'am. How close were you to the boundary when Officer Walsh asked for more space? About 2 feet. Ryan glanced toward her. You were supposed to remain behind the yellow line. Maya looked down. The class was moved forward before the demonstration. By whom? Simone asked. Maya hesitated. Luke answered first. I told them to move closer so they could see. Simone let the silence remain. Luke's attempt to make the exercise more entertaining had created the very risk Cody noticed. Cody looked at Maya. I should have stopped the drill sooner. Yes, Simone said. You should have. He accepted the correction without defending himself. Ryan watched the exchange with growing irritation. So now he gets praised for refusing to participate. He is not being praised, Simone replied. He is being shown the difference between hesitation and judgment. She looked at all 3 officers. Officer Walsh saw the danger but waited for permission. Officer Bennett created the danger because attention mattered more than procedure. Officer Mercer ignored the danger because winning mattered more than the purpose of the exercise. The words landed without volume, but no one in the room missed them. Ryan stepped fully onto the mat again. You have a lot of opinions for someone who walked in without introducing herself. Simone picked up her coat. Inside the inner pocket, the identification card pressed lightly against her hand. Captain Reeves had asked for 1 hour of honest observation. Only 23 minutes had passed. You decided what I knew before asking who I was, she said. That is not my failure to introduce myself. That is your decision to judge first. Ryan's jaw tightened. Then tell us who you are. Before Simone could answer, the main doors opened. Captain Daniel Reeves entered with 2 members of the City Oversight Board. His eyes moved from the frozen timer to the replay screen, then to Ryan standing inside the square. Do not stop on our account, he said. I believe Dr. Carter was just beginning her evaluation. Ryan looked from Captain Reeves to Simone, and the confidence in his face began to fracture. Dr. Carter, he repeated. Reeves walked farther into the training hall with the 2 Oversight Board members behind him. Dr. Simone Carter, he said, the Academy's new Director of Tactical Ethics, De-escalation, and Instructor Standards. No one laughed. Luke lowered his eyes. Cody stepped out of the square and stood at attention, but Simone raised one hand. At ease, she said. This is not a ceremony. Reeves glanced at the frozen timer. What happened? Ryan answered before anyone else could speak. We conducted an informal skills assessment. Simone looked at the replay screen. You challenged a visitor you assumed lacked competence, changed a scheduled class without approval, moved recruits too close to the training zone, and treated safety rules as obstacles. Ryan's jaw tightened. That is one interpretation. The cameras provide another. Elena restarted the footage from the beginning. The screen showed Ryan blocking Simone near the exit, Luke making the class laugh, Cody hesitating, and several recruits being moved forward until they stood only a few feet from the blue line. One of the oversight members, a woman named Patricia Monroe, watched without expression. Was Dr. Carter identified before this interaction? She asked. No, Ryan said. Then why was she challenged? He paused. She entered an active training area. So did we, Patricia replied. No one challenged us. The distinction hung in the air. Simone watched Ryan search for an explanation that would not name what everyone could see. I did not know her role, he said. You knew enough to decide she did not belong, Simone answered. Luke shifted beside him. It was supposed to be a joke. Simone turned toward him. A joke for whom? The class. Did you ask? Whether the person being mocked found it harmless. Luke did not answer. Did you make the same kind of joke when Captain Reeves entered? His silence became the answer. Cody looked toward Maya Thompson and the other recruits. Dr. Carter, he said, I should have spoken sooner. Simone faced him. Yes. Cody swallowed. I knew the setup was wrong when the class was moved closer. I still entered the exercise. Why? Because I did not want them to think I was afraid. And what did that fear make you willing to ignore? Cody looked at the blue line. The recruits. Simone nodded once. That is the lesson. Reeves stepped toward the center of the room. Dr. Carter was asked to observe this academy because the city received repeated complaints about unequal treatment in subjective evaluations. Women and black recruits were often described as lacking command presence when they questioned instructions, while similar behavior from white male recruits was recorded as confidence. Ryan looked at him. Those reviews were already closed. They were closed internally, Reeves said. The city reopened them. Patricia handed Simone a thin folder. Inside were scoring summaries, instructor comments, and comparison charts from the previous 2 training cycles. Simone opened to the first marked page. Officer Mercer, you gave recruit Thompson a low score for hesitation during a scenario last month. Ryan glanced at Maya. She froze. The video shows she paused because another recruit entered the civilian safety zone. She lost momentum. She protected the bystander. Simone turned another page. A white male recruit made the same decision 2 weeks earlier. You described his pause as tactical awareness. Ryan's face changed. The room felt colder despite the steady air from the vents. Those were different scenarios. Then explain the difference. He looked at the file, but he did not reach for it. Simone continued. Officer Bennett, your written comments repeatedly describe black recruits as defensive when they challenge unclear instructions. White recruits who do the same are described as assertive. Luke shook his head. I never considered race. Bias does not require a person to announce it, Simone said. Sometimes it appears in the standard that changes depending on who stands in front of you. She closed the folder. This morning was not a separate incident. It was a demonstration of the culture these records describe. Ryan looked toward the recruits, finally aware that every face in the room was now evaluating him. So what happens to us? Simone glanced at the timer still frozen at 0. First, you stop asking how this affects you. Then you begin asking who your decisions have affected. Ryan looked at the recruits, but no one met his eyes for long. The room that had once rewarded his certainty now reflected it back without admiration. Simone handed the folder to Patricia Monroe and walked toward the center of the training hall. Officer Mercer, Officer Bennett, and Officer Walsh will be removed from instructional duty pending an independent review, she said. Luke looked up sharply. For one exercise. For a pattern that this exercise made visible. Ryan folded his arms. You came here expecting to find bias. I came here expecting to find evidence, Simone replied. You provided it before I introduced myself. Reeves stepped beside her. All current recruit evaluations signed by these instructors will be reviewed. Any subjective scoring difference that cannot be supported by video, written standards, or consistent comparison will be reopened. A murmur moved through the class. Maya Thompson stood very still, but Simone saw something change in her face. It was not relief yet. Relief required trust, and trust did not return because one powerful person made one strong statement. What happens to our training schedule? Ryan asked. Simone looked at him. The academy will continue. The part that depends on humiliation will not. Luke shook his head. You are making us sound cruel. You invited a stranger onto a mat so the room could laugh if she failed. We did not know your experience. You did not ask. The answer was simple enough to make the room quiet again. Cody stepped forward. Dr. Carter, I want my statement recorded before anyone speaks to me privately. Ryan turned toward him. Think. Carefully. Cody's face tightened, but he continued. I am. He looked at Elena. The recruits were moved closer because Officer Bennett wanted a better audience. Officer Mercer approved the challenge without checking the lesson plan. I knew the setup was unsafe, and I still participated. Luke stared at him. You are protecting yourself. No, Cody said. I am admitting I did not protect them. Simone watched the words land differently this time. Cody had not escaped responsibility by telling the truth. He had finally accepted it. Your statement will be taken independently, she said. You will have counsel available, and no one named in the review will be present. Ryan stepped closer, careful not to cross the blue line. What do you want from us? Simone looked at the frozen screen, the cameras above them, and the recruits who had spent months learning which questions cost them points. I want you to understand the difference between embarrassment and accountability. Embarrassment is what you tried to create for me. Accountability is what begins when the record survives your version of events. Patricia asked Elena to preserve every camera angle from the morning. Reeves ordered the academy database locked against edits until the oversight team could copy the files. Luke's expression changed. There is no need to treat us like criminals. This is an administrative review, Patricia said. Preserving records is standard procedure. Then why does it feel like punishment? Simone answered before Patricia could. Because you are finally experiencing a process you do not control. Luke looked away. Ryan stayed silent, but the muscles in his jaw remained tight. Maya raised one hand. Dr. Carter, may I ask something? Yes. If the scores are changed, does that change what people already think of us? Simone took a moment before answering. Not immediately. A corrected number cannot erase months of being told that caution meant weakness or confidence meant attitude. Maya lowered her hand. Simone continued, but it can stop the next decision from using a false record as proof. Reeves looked toward the class. Training is suspended for the rest of the morning. Simone shook her head. Not suspended. She walked to the timer and reset it to 60 seconds. Reassigned. The recruits watched as she placed 3 chairs inside the marked square and positioned one near the exit. The next exercise is not about controlling a person, she said. It is about protecting a room when authority, pride, and pressure all demand different things. Ryan studied the setup. Who is teaching it? Simone met his eyes. The people who still remember that strength is supposed to serve judgment. Then she looked at Maya, Cody, and Elena. You 3 will begin. Elena moved the 3 chairs into position while Maya stood near the center of the marked square and Cody waited beside the exit. Simone explained the scenario in a calm voice. One chair represented a frightened civilian, another represented an injured partner, and the third blocked the most direct path out of the room. The objective was not to overpower anyone. The objective was to create a safe exit while protecting the person most at risk. Ryan and Luke remained near the wall under Reeves's supervision, no longer instructors and no longer the center of attention. The timer began. Maya immediately checked the exit, then looked toward Cody. The direct route is blocked, she said. We need to move the civilian first. Cody nodded but started toward the chair representing the injured officer. Maya stopped him. If we move the partner first, we trap the civilian. Cody looked at the floor markings, reconsidered, and changed direction. Simone watched without interrupting. The hall felt different now. No one laughed when Maya paused. No one confused speed with confidence. Elena called out changing conditions from the control station, forcing them to adjust without warning. At 42 seconds, Cody suggested opening a second path. Maya agreed but reminded him to keep the exit visible. At 27 seconds, they moved the civilian chair to safety. At 12 seconds, they cleared the blocked route. The tone sounded with everyone protected and no one outside the designated zone. The recruits remained silent until Simone asked, "What made that work?" Maya answered first. "We kept checking the whole room instead of focusing on one problem." Cody added, "And neither of us treated correction like disrespect." Simone looked toward Ryan. He understood the invitation but did not respond. Luke stared at the floor. Reeves stepped closer to the replay screen. "Run both exercises side by side," he told Elena. The first recording showed Ryan moving before his team was ready, Luke watching the audience, and Cody waiting too long to voice a safety concern. The second showed Maya and Cody communicating, changing decisions, and protecting the observer zone. The difference was not strength. It was discipline. "This is what the complaints were trying to explain," Simone said. Some recruits were penalized for pausing to protect people, while others were praised for moving quickly even when their decisions created risk. Ryan finally spoke. "You are comparing a planned scenario to a challenge that happened without preparation." "Exactly," Simone replied. "Pressure does not create character. It reveals the habits already present." Patricia Monroe asked Elena to display the evaluation forms used during the previous training cycle. Rows of scores appeared on the screen. Command presence, decisiveness, control, confidence, and adaptability were listed without precise definitions. Simone pointed to the categories. These words sound objective until one instructor decides a quiet recruit lacks confidence and another decides a loud recruit shows leadership. Ryan crossed his arms again. Instructors need discretion. Discretion without a consistent standard becomes permission for bias. Maya looked at her own name on the screen. Her technical scores were among the highest in the class, but the subjective categories had lowered her overall ranking. Beside her record was a comment written by Ryan, "Too cautious under pressure." Simone opened the video from the scenario that produced the comment. Maya had paused because a role player entered the evacuation path. She redirected the group and prevented confusion. "That decision protected the room," Simone said. Yet the report framed it as weakness. Ryan looked at the screen. "I saw hesitation. Because you expected confidence to look like you." The sentence remained in the air. Luke shifted uneasily. Cody looked at Maya. "I would have made the same choice." Maya gave him a measured look. "Would you have received the same score?" Cody did not answer. He did not need to. Simone turned off the replay. The screen went black, reflecting the people standing before it. "No one here needs to be perfect today," she said. "But everyone must be honest about what the evidence shows." Ryan's reflection faced hers in the dark glass. His voice was quieter when he asked, "And what does it show about me?" Simone held his gaze. "That you confused familiarity with fairness. You trusted decisions that resembled your own and doubted people who did not." Ryan looked toward Maya, then at the empty training mat. For the first time that morning, he did not defend himself. Elena reset the timer, but Simone stopped her before she pressed the button. "Leave it at 0, she said. "The next part cannot be measured in 60 seconds. The timer remained dark while Patricia Monroe distributed printed copies of the evaluation data to Captain Reeves, Elena, and Simone. Ryan stood near the wall with Luke, both men separated from the recruits they had taught only an hour earlier. Cody remained beside Maya, no longer positioned as an instructor, but not yet removed from the room. Simone walked to the center of the mat and placed one report on the floor between the blue lines. "This record belongs to a recruit who completed every technical requirement," she said. Her overall rating still fell below promotion level because 3 instructors described her as defensive, overly cautious, and resistant to authority. Maya looked at the page and recognized the dates before Simone said her name. Those comments were about me. Ryan looked toward her. They were professional observations. Simone opened the attached video summary. On the first date, recruit Thompson questioned why the civilian safety marker had been removed. On the second, she stopped a scenario when another recruit entered an unsafe zone. On the third, she requested clarification after receiving 2 conflicting commands. Luke shifted his weight. Questions can interrupt momentum. So can poor instructions, Simone replied. Patricia raised another report. A white male recruit questioned an instructor 4 times during the same month. His evaluation described him as confident and leadership-oriented. The recruits began looking at one another. What had once felt like isolated unfairness now appeared as a repeated pattern. Ryan's voice hardened. You can find differences in any set of reports if you look for them. Simone faced him. That is why we did not rely on impressions. The city compared 214 evaluations from the last 3 training cycles. Black recruits and women received lower subjective scores at nearly twice the rate of white male recruits with similar technical results. The room became completely still. Reeves looked at Ryan and Luke. Were either of you aware of that? Ryan answered first. No, Luke shook his head. Cody looked at the floor. I noticed some recruits were labeled difficult more quickly than others, he said. Ryan turned toward him. You never said that. I told myself it was not enough to prove anything. Simone looked at Cody. What did you do with that concern? Nothing. Then the pattern continued without resistance. Cody accepted the words with a slow nod. Simone turned toward the recruits. Bias is not always loud. Sometimes it looks like a standard that shifts depending on who is being measured. Sometimes it sounds like a joke everyone is expected to survive. Sometimes it is a concern that a decent person notices and decides is too uncomfortable to report. Maya raised her hand. What happens to the evaluations already used for assignments? Patricia answered. Every affected record will be independently reviewed. No recruit will lose placement or graduation status because of a disputed subjective score until the review is complete. A young white recruit near the back spoke carefully. Does that mean every instructor decision is considered biased now? Simone shook her head. No. It means every decision must be explainable by evidence and applied consistently. Ryan looked at the reports again. The anger in his face had begun to give way to something less certain. I did not wake up planning to treat anyone differently. Intent explains what you meant, Simone said. Impact shows what your decisions did. Luke folded his arms. So there is nothing we can say that matters. The truth matters. Accountability matters. Change matters. Excuses do not. Reeves stepped forward. Effective immediately, the 3 of you will not conduct evaluations or lead drills. An outside team will review the records and interview recruits privately. Ryan looked at Simone. And you will decide whether we come back. No, she said. Because I am part of what happened today, I requested that the final employment decisions be made by an independent panel. My role is to preserve the evidence, protect the recruits, and rebuild the standards. Patricia glanced at her, visibly approving the boundary. Luke's expression tightened, but Ryan looked surprised. You are not going to use what happened to remove us yourself. Simone held his gaze. Accountability is not revenge. A fair process should protect you from bias too. For the first time, Ryan seemed unable to respond. Maya looked from him to Simone. Then what do we do now? Simone picked up the report from the floor. We begin by correcting what the Academy rewarded. She asked Elena to project the scoring categories again. Confidence, decisiveness, command presence, control, and adaptability filled the screen. One by one, Simone replaced them with measurable behaviors, clear communication, safe positioning, consistent judgment, evidence-based decisions, and willingness to accept correction. Luke stared at the new list. Cody read each line twice. Ryan looked toward the timer at 0. How long does rebuilding this take? He asked. Simone followed his eyes. Longer than 60 seconds, she said. And it only counts when you choose fairness before you know who is watching. The independent review began before the afternoon class could resume. Patricia Monroe moved the recruits into separate interview rooms, while Reeves assigned an administrator from outside the academy to collect the training records. Ryan, Luke, and Cody were told not to discuss their statements with one another. Simone remained in the empty hall with Elena, studying the frozen image of the scoring chart on the dark screen. The room no longer felt like a place built for instruction. It felt like a room finally willing to testify. Elena stood beside her. "I should have reported more," she said. Simone looked at her. "What did you see?" "Jokes that became habits. Scores that never seemed serious enough to challenge alone. Recruits learning which questions would cost them." "Why did you stay?" Elena took a slow breath. "I thought I could protect people from inside the system." "Did you?" Elena looked toward the blue boundary lines. "Sometimes. Not enough." Simone did not soften the truth, but she did not use it as a weapon. "Then say that in your statement." Across the hall, Ryan sat alone at a table with the first comparison report in front of him. The independent interviewer asked why Maya's caution had been scored as weakness while a white male recruit's identical choice had been praised as awareness. Ryan read both comments twice. "I believed I was responding to different levels of confidence," he said. "What evidence supported that?" He searched the forms. There was none. In another room, Luke watched clips of recruits laughing after his jokes, then watched the faces of those being mocked. The laughter sounded different without the energy of the room protecting it. "I never meant to humiliate anyone," he said. The interviewer paused the video on Maya's face. "What did your intention change for her?" Luke lowered his eyes. Cody gave his statement without waiting to be challenged. He described the moved boundary, the unfair comments, and the moments when he noticed patterns but stayed silent because Ryan and Luke controlled assignments. "I thought speaking up would end my career," he said. "So I let other people carry the cost instead." By late afternoon, the recruits returned to the hall. Simone stood before them without a podium, her coat folded over the same chair where she had placed it that morning. "The review will not be completed today," she said. "No honest investigation should be rushed to satisfy emotion." Maya watched her carefully. "Will the 3 instructors return?" "That decision belongs to the independent panel. But no one will return to instructional duty without proving they can apply the same standard to every recruit." A recruit near the back asked, "What does proving change look like?" Simone looked toward the dark timer. "It begins when someone stops defending the intention and starts repairing the impact." The doors opened. Ryan entered first, followed by Luke and Cody, each accompanied by a representative from the review team. They did not stand together. Ryan faced the class. His voice was quieter than anyone had heard it. "I reviewed Recruit Thompson's evaluation against another recruit's record. I used different language for the same decision." Maya did not respond. Ryan continued. "I called one person cautious and another person aware. I cannot support that difference with evidence." Luke stepped forward next. "I used humor to control the room. When people laughed, I treated that as proof that nothing was wrong." He looked toward Maya and several other recruits. The people who were hurt were the least free to say so. Cody spoke last. "I saw enough to question the pattern, and I stayed silent." That silence helped it continue. Simone let the room remain still. An apology delivered under observation was only the beginning, but beginnings still mattered. "None of these statements erase the record," she said. "They create a choice about what happens next." She turned toward Ryan. "What will you do if the panel allows you to return?" He looked at Maya before answering. "Use measurable standards, document every decision, and invite review before someone has to demand it. And when a recruit questions you, I will answer the question before judging the person." Simone looked at Luke. "What will you do when the room laughs? Ask who the laughter is costing." Then she faced Cody. "What will you do when speaking feels dangerous? Remember that silence transfers the danger to someone with less power." Simone nodded once. She picked up the timer and placed it in the center of the floor. This morning, you believed 60 seconds would prove who belonged here. It proved something else. Skill matters. Judgment matters more. Strength matters. Character decides what strength serves. No one applauded. Maya stepped toward Ryan and placed her original evaluation on the table between them. "Correct the record," she said. Ryan looked at the page, then at her. "I will." Simone watched him take the form with both hands. The room was still imperfect, the investigation unfinished, and trust far from restored. But for the first time, the people who had controlled the standards were no longer controlling the truth. 8 weeks later, the training hall looked the same, but the culture inside it had changed. The blue boundary lines remained on the rubber floor, the cameras still watched from the ceiling, and the digital timer still glowed above the far wall. What had changed was the silence. It was no longer the silence of people afraid to question authority. It was the silence of people paying attention. The independent panel had completed its review of 214 evaluations. 36 records were corrected, 12 recruits received new placement opportunities, and every subjective category was replaced with measurable standards tied to video and written behavior. Luke Bennett was removed from instructional duty after the review confirmed a repeated pattern of humiliating recruits and dismissing concerns as humor. Cody Walsh returned only after completing remedial training, giving a full statement, and accepting a probationary role with no authority to score recruits. Ryan Mercer was allowed to return under direct supervision because he admitted the inconsistent evaluations, helped identify additional flawed records, and agreed that every future decision would be open to independent audit. Simone did not call that forgiveness. She called it responsibility with conditions. That morning, Maya Thompson stood inside the marked square leading a new scenario for the next class. Ryan observed from the side with a clipboard, but he did not interrupt when she paused to redirect a recruit away from the civilian safety zone. Instead, he wrote one sentence, corrected risk before advancing. When the exercise ended, he handed Maya the form. She read it carefully. "No comment about hesitation?" she asked. Ryan shook his head. "You did not hesitate. You evaluated." Maya looked at him for a long moment, then signed the form. It was not trust, but it was evidence of a better standard. Across the room, Luke attended as a participant in a required accountability session. When several recruits laughed after one trainee made a nervous mistake, Luke raised his hand. "Stop," he said. The room quieted. Fear is not entertainment. Simone watched from behind the observation glass where no one on the floor could see her. Cody stood near the exit and noticed that 2 chairs had been placed too close to the boundary. This time, he did not wait for someone else to speak. He stopped the drill, moved the chairs, and documented why. No one mocked him for it. No one called him weak. Captain Reeves joined Simone behind the glass. "Do you think they have changed?" he asked. Simone looked at Ryan reviewing Maya's score, Luke speaking without an audience to impress, and Cody correcting a safety problem before it became someone else's burden. "I think they are choosing differently today," she said. "Change is whether they keep choosing differently tomorrow." Reeves nodded toward the old timer resting on the desk. Its screen still showed 60 seconds. "You kept it." Simone picked it up and turned it over in her hand. It used to measure how quickly someone could win. She opened a drawer and placed it inside. "Now it reminds me how quickly people reveal what they believe." On the training floor, Maya called the class together. She asked what strength meant in a profession built around authority. One recruit answered that strength meant control. Another said confidence. Maya looked toward Ryan. He lowered his clipboard. "Strength is the ability to accept correction before your pride makes someone else pay for your mistake." The recruits wrote it down. Simone closed the drawer. The academy had not become perfect. Records could be corrected faster than trust. Policies could change before habits did. But the people who once believed power made them right had learned that power only made their choices more visible. Kindness had not weakened the standards. Fairness had made them stronger. Accountability had not destroyed the academy. It had given the academy a chance to deserve the people it trained. As the final class left the room, the lights dimmed over the empty square, and the blue lines rested quietly on the floor. No one was standing there to impress an audience. No timer was running. No title was being announced. So what reveals a person more clearly? How they behave when everyone is watching, or what they choose when they believe no one has the power to hold them accountable?